Have you ever stopped to think, really think, about whether what you see and hear is, well, the whole picture? Is our reality everything there is? Today we're exploring one of philosophy's most powerful and honestly enduring parables, Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Our mission really is to get to the heart of this ancient story. We want to understand its implications for, knowledge, truth, and maybe even how we look at our world today. We'll examine its original context, link it to other key Platonic ideas, and see why it still hits home after thousands of years.
Absolutely. And this whole idea comes from Plato's huge work, The Republic, Book 7. It's actually presented as a conversation between Socrates, Plato's mentor, and Plato's own brother, Glaucon. And significantly, it comes right after the analogy of the sun and the analogy of the divided line. So Plato's really building a case here, setting a rich philosophical stage.
Okay, so let's really picture this. Imagine a cave deep underground. And inside, there are people who've been prisoners since they were children, chained by their necks, their ankles, so they can only look straight ahead at the cave wall in front of them. They can't look around, can't see each other, nothing.
That's the setup. And behind them, crucially, there's a fire burning. And between that fire and the prisoners, there's a raised path with a sort of low wall. Imagine like a puppeteer screen. People walk along this path behind the wall carrying things, statues, figures of animals, all sorts of objects.
And these objects stick up above the wall.
Exactly. So the firelight catches these objects and casts their shadows onto the wall that the prisoners are forced to watch. Plus, when these people carrying the objects talk, their voices echo inside the cave.
So the prisoners would think the shadows themselves are speaking.
Precisely. For these prisoners, that world of flickering shadows and echoing sounds, that is reality. It's all they know. They have no concept that these are just, well, distorted copies of manufactured objects, let alone that those objects are based on real things outside the cave entirely. Their whole understanding is built on this very limited sensory input, shadows and echoes.
Okay, and here's where it gets really intense, right? The moment one prisoner is somehow freed. Describe what happens then, because it's not just about walking out, is it? It's painful.
Oh, absolutely painful. First, they're forced to turn around and look towards the fire. That light alone would hurt their eyes. They wouldn't be able to properly see the actual objects casting the shadows they knew. And if someone told them, look, this is real, not those shadows, they'd be confused, probably wouldn't believe it.
They want to go back to what's familiar.
Exactly. Socrates suggests they'd instinctively try to turn back to the darkness, to the shadows they understand. It's less painful, less confusing.
But the allegory doesn't let them. Someone physically drags them.
Right. Pulled by force, Plato says, up the rough ascent, the steep way up. It's a struggle. Out of the cave entirely, into the direct light of the sun. Imagine the shock, the blindness.
Overwhelming. Just sheer sensory overload.
It really would be. And the adjustment Plato emphasizes is very slow. Once outside, their eyes would gradually adapt. At first, maybe they can only make out shadows again, but shadows of real things. Then, maybe reflections in water. Then, eventually they can look at the actual people, trees, objects around them.
It's a process of acclimatization.
A long process. And only after getting used to all that could they perhaps look at the moon and stars at night. And finally, the ultimate step, being able to look directly at the sun itself. And what's fascinating here, as Plato puts it, is that only after this whole difficult journey, after facing the sun, can the prisoner begin to reason about it, to understand its nature, its role as the source of light and life.
That sounds like it connects directly to his analogy of the sun.
It absolutely does. The sun illuminates the visible world, allowing sight, but it also represents the form of the good, which illuminates the world of ideas, allowing understanding. It's the source of truth.
So once this freed prisoner understands, they realize how much better the outside world is. They feel pity for the others still trapped in the cave, right? And they want to go back and tell them.
Yes, that's the natural impulse described. They'd feel blessed by the change and want to share this incredible discovery. They want to liberate the others.
But the return, that doesn't go well.
No, this is the really tragic part. When the freed prisoner re-enters the darkness of the caves, their eyes, now used to the bright sunlight, would struggle to see. They'd be clumsy, temporarily blind in the dim light.
And the other prisoners would see this happen.
Exactly. They'd see this person stumbling around, unable to function well in their world. They'd conclude the journey outside must have ruined their sight, harmed them. Why would anyone want that?
So they'd resist leaving even more strongly.
Much more. They'd think the journey is dangerous and pointless. And this leads to Plato's really stark conclusion via Socrates. He suggests that if the prisoners could, they would actually try to kill anyone who attempted to free them. to drag them out into that painful light.
Wow. That's quite a statement about resistance to change or to uncomfortable truths.
It really is. It highlights the danger faced by those who try to enlighten others who are comfortable in their perceived reality, however limited it might be.
So, stepping back from the narrative itself, what's the deeper philosophical meaning here? You mentioned the forms earlier.
Right, that's central. The allegory is fundamentally about Plato's theory of forms, the shadows on the wall. Those represent the world we perceive through our senses. It's fleeting, changing, imperfect, like copies of copies.
And the objects casting the shadows, and especially the things outside.
Those represent the forms. The puppets inside might be like physical objects, but the real objects outside, illuminated by the sun, those correspond to the true forms, the perfect eternal blueprints of everything that exists, like treeness or justice or beauty. These forms, Plato believed, are the true reality, and they can only be grasped through reason, through philosophical contemplation, not just sense experience.
So the philosopher is like that freed prisoner, the one making the difficult journey.
Exactly. The philosopher's task is to ascend from the cave of sensory experience towards the intelligible realm of the forms. True knowledge, for Plato, is knowledge of these forms, especially the highest form, the form of the good, represented by the sun.
And it comes with a responsibility.
A profound one. Plato argues that those who achieve this understanding, the philosopher kings in his ideal state, have a duty to go back down into the cave. They must help guide others, to rule wisely based on true knowledge, even though they'd probably rather stay in the light of contemplation, and even though they might face resistance or danger.
That idea of the soul being trapped, seeking something beyond the physical, it echoes other Platonic dialogues too, doesn't it?
It does. You see similar imagery in the Phaedo, for instance. There, Socrates talks about the soul being like a prisoner fast bound within his body, trying to glimpse reality beyond the bars of a prison, meaning the limitations of the senses. It's a consistent theme. Our physical existence can obscure true understanding.
And this ascent, this journey from shadows to forms, it maps onto another key idea from the Republic, the divided line.
Perfectly. The analogy of the divided line lays out these levels of reality and cognition. You have the visible world, split into shadows images, lowest level, and then physical objects. That's the cave, essentially.
Right, the prisoners seeing shadows, then maybe seeing the puppets.
Then you cross into the intelligible world. First, there's mathematical reasoning, dealing with concepts but still using some visible aids perhaps. And finally, the highest level. Pure understanding, grasping the forms themselves, especially the form of the good. The prisoner's journey from shadows to puppets, to reflections outside, to real objects, to the sun it mirrors, climbing those steps on the divided line. Each stage represents a clearer, more real level of existence and a higher form of knowledge.
And the sun analogy ties it all together. It's not just light for seeing.
No, it's the source of intelligibility itself. Just as the sun makes physical objects visible and allows our eyes to see, the form of the good makes the forms themselves knowable and empowers our intellect to understand them. It's the ultimate source of reality and truth in Plato's system.
It's clearer why this allegory has generated so much thought over the centuries. It's not just one simple message. Scholars have debated its meaning quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Its richness allows for multiple interpretations, and that's part of its lasting power. Two main lines of thought have been really prominent historically. One is often called the epistemological view. Thinkers like Richard Lewis Nettleship focused on this. They see the allegory primarily as being about our intellectual limitations as humans, our sort of innate incapacity or maybe unwillingness to pursue true philosophical wisdom. It contrasts everyday opinion with genuine knowledge.
So focused on the individual journey of knowing. And the other view.
That's more of a political view associated with scholars like A.S. Ferguson. This interpretation reads the cave as symbolizing human society, maybe even the political state itself. It emphasizes the conflict between the philosopher who has seen the truth and the corrupting influences or ignorance within the prevailing political conditions. It becomes a critique of society and a model for ideal rule.
Interesting. So individual knowledge versus societal structures.
Broadly, yes. And
Yeah.
of course, these aren't mutually exclusive, and modern interpretations add even more layers.
Like the discussions influenced by 20th century philosophers.
Right. Martin Heidegger, for example, used the allegory to explore themes of human freedom and uncovering truth. Hannah Arendt responded, connecting Plato's ideas very directly to political philosophy and action. It just shows how these ancient ideas continue to spark new conversations and interpretations. The different viewpoints really enrich our understanding. They don't cancel each other out.
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? How an idea from ancient Greece isn't just locked away in philosophy departments. Its imagery, its core themes, they've really seeped into our wider culture.
Massively. Its influence on Western thought is undeniable. You see echoes centuries later. Francis Bacon, for instance, talked about the idols of the cave, not Plato's cave exactly, but using the metaphor to describe personal biases, the limitations of our individual perspectives that distort understanding.
So like personal caves of prejudice or habit.
Sort of, yes. And Sir Thomas Browne, back in the 17th century, writing about death and the afterlife and earned burial, compared our ignorance of what comes next to trying to understand things in Plato's Danae. It became a shorthand for profound ignorance of a greater reality.
Even more recently.
Definitely. The evolutionary biologist Jeremy Griffith, in his book A Species in Denial, has a whole chapter trying to decipher the allegory, seeing it as key to understanding human psychology. It keeps getting reinterpreted.
And then there's fiction and movies. It feels like it's everywhere once you start looking.
It really is fertile ground for storytellers. The list of films is huge. You have classics like The Conformist or maybe Dark City, then huge blockbusters like The Matrix, which is almost a direct retelling in a sci-fi context.
The Truman Show, too, definitely.
The Truman Show, The 13th Floor, The Island, City of Ember. Jordan Peele's Us uses cave imagery. The upcoming An Urban Allegory seems explicitly titled. It's a powerful framework for exploring illusion versus reality.
And TV series as well, like 1899.
Yes, that had strong themes of a constructed reality. It resonates because the core question, is my world real, is so fundamental.
Literature, too, you mentioned.
Right. Jose Saramago's novel The Cave is fascinating. It ends with characters literally discovering Plato's cave hidden beneath a modern shopping center. A very direct commentary.
And Fahrenheit 451, Bradbury uses it.
Explicitly. Montag reads Plato, and the whole society lives in a kind of manufactured reality, shunning difficult truths, preferring the parlor walls. It fits perfectly.
Even music. That's interesting.
Yeah, the concept album, Unsung Prophets and Dead Messiahs by Orphaned Land. The lead singer actually called Plato an unsung prophet and talked about the album exploring humanity's fear of breaking the chains and facing the light. It's quite pervasive.
So we've traced this incredible path from those first flickering shadows the prisoners saw, up that steep climb into the blinding light, and facing the difficult truth, and then that often tragic return.
It really stands as this enduring symbol, doesn't it? A powerful illustration of how challenging, but also how rewarding the search for genuine knowledge and truth can be. And it's also, I think, a stark reminder of the friction that can happen in society when established beliefs, those comfortable shadows, get challenged by a different, maybe more profound understanding. There's often resistance.
Which brings us back to us, here and now. In our world, just awash with information, endless streams of content, competing narratives. How do you, listening now, tell the difference between the shadows and the substance? What does it really take for you to question your assumptions and turn towards a potentially uncomfortable light? And maybe the toughest question, what responsibility do you feel to share what you learn, even knowing it might not be welcomed?